Robert Edward Huggins was born in September of 1953. Nickname Huggy Bear. He is currently the head basketball coach at West Virginia University, his alma mater. He previously had stops at Walsh, University of Akron, of course, an incredible run here at the University of Cincinnati, one season at Kansas State. He was inducted into the Naismith Memorial Basketball Hall of Fame in this year of 2022. He is the third all-time winningest coach in the history of Division I men's college basketball, behind only Mike Krzyzewski and Jim Boeheim. He's been to the NCAA tournament 24 times, including 23 of the last 26. He's been to 9 Sweet 16s, 4 Elite Eights, 2 Final Fours, one with UC, another at West Virginia. And he will be coming to town this weekend as head coach of the Mountaineers, taking on the Xavier Musketeers. Bob Huggins, welcome. It is so nice to see you. How's everything in Morgantown?
Tommy, it's great. I'm just sitting here listening to you wax eloquently as you always do, and just enjoying the morning.
Well, I can't thank you enough for joining us. I want to go back to growing up in a household. I was looking up some of the accomplishments of your late father, Charlie Huggins. He won almost 400 games, lost around 70, won 3 state championships. You were around for all of that. What was life like growing up the son of a basketball coach?
Hard. There were 7 kids, 3 boys and 4 girls in the family, and 7 kids, mom and dad living in a trailer. It wasn't palatial, Tommy. I'll tell you that much.
When you think about, though, Bob, I think, and you've been around thousands of kids that you've recruited. You think about some of the life lessons you learn, no matter how it is you grow up, and I'm assuming your dad, as a coach, was an incredible disciplinarian, very demanding, probably the same as a dad. What is one thing that you've taken away from that whole experience that stays with you every single day now as a man and as a coach?
Well, I think when you walked into practice, my dad had a clipboard, and he had the schedule for the day, and you couldn't have got done in a week what he had for a day, and you just kind of walk in there and look at that schedule and shake your head and say it's going to be a long night. But I mean, he probably did the fundamental things better than anybody I've ever been around. And I think the thing that I admired about him, particularly later on when I kind of got into this business, was he was always searching to get better. If he saw a coach or a team play that he really thought they did everything the right way, he would go see the coach and sit and talk, with the coach. And he never got too big to learn, and he was huge. Probably as well known a coach as there was in the state of Ohio, but you wouldn't know it. He got inducted into the Ohio Basketball Hall of Fame, and he didn't want it. He said, "No, I don't deserve it. I don't want it." And he was a very humble guy.
You were a great player playing for him. You come out one of the great players, one of the most recruited players in the state of Ohio, and you decide to go to Ohio University. You're only there for 1 year. Why 1 year there at OU?
I didn't fit in. I mean, it just was. The style didn't fit me. Walter Luckett was there, and quite frankly, Walter was way better than I was. And so I'm going to sit on the bench for 4 years and watch another guy play. Didn't set very well with me, and Yeah, my grandfather, grandmother, grandfather on both sides, my mom and my dad were still living here in Morgantown, and it seemed like a good place to go. I mean, I was born here, lived here until I was probably 11, 12 years old, and then moved to Ohio. So I knew people here. Um, it was comfortable, and it was a place where I felt like I could go play and make a difference.
Well, and that you did. 3-year starter, you score over 800 career points, and you decide. Had you decided already, Coach, when you were playing? And I know you got a tryout in the NBA, but had you decided already, even before you started college? I mean, I don't know, or maybe it was during college, that you wanted to be a basketball coach too?
No, I wanted to play. I wanted to play. I got an opportunity to try out with the 76ers, and that was Doug Collins and World B. Free and that whole crew. And it didn't take very long to realize I wasn't in that group. So, but I hung in there, and I was officially the last one cut because I sat there until the other two guys that got cut walked out before me. So I could always say I was the last one cut.
You come back and you become a grad assistant at West Virginia. You get your master's degree. You graduate magna cum laude, by the way, with a double major in undergrad. And so now you're embarking on your collegiate career, your coaching career. You go from West Virginia to Ohio State, and then at 27 years old, you get your first head coaching job at Walsh University. What was the difference between walking out of a big-time program under Eldon Miller at Ohio State, where you were an assistant, to now all of a sudden taking over at Walsh, where you're the guy?
Well, I think first of all, is to this day a wonderful guy. I mean, he just came down and spent a week with me not long ago. Watched every practice, took notes. Just an absolutely wonderful guy. And Tommy, where we grew up, in the trailer where we grew up, if you went 5 miles one way, that's where Eldon Miller lived. If you went 5 miles the other way, that's where Woody Hayes grew up. If you went 5 miles like over the river and up the hill, that's where Cy Young's buried. So I've been blessed, man. I've been blessed to be around some of the great minds and some of the great people in college sports. And I was with Coach for 2 years, and I wanted to do my own deal. You know, I thought it was time for me to kind of spread my wings, and the truth of the matter is they didn't want me, they wanted my dad. And they offered my dad, and he was going to take the job until he found out what the pay was. And then he said, "Listen, I got a great idea for you. Why don't you hire my son?" So Walsh College called me, and it's kind of ironic that they came down. I signed the contract. I was in Columbus at the time. They came down. I signed the contract, and probably no more than 10 minutes after they walked out the door, Malone College called me and offered me the job for about twice as much money. And I said, hey man, I'm sorry, but I've already signed a contract. I'm not going to break a contract. So I ended up at Walsh.
Well, it doesn't take you long to get that thing rolling. I mean, you go 34-1 your final year there. The one thing I found curious, Bob, was that you left as a head coach at Walsh to become an assistant coach at the University of Central Florida. Why?
When I tell you, you'll know why. Chuck Mashock.
Yeah.
That's why.
Enough said.
Chuck got the head coaching job and said, "Come on, you're going with me." And I mean, who was I to argue with Chuck? So I went
miss
to
him
Florida
every day. I know you do too.
No, miss him dearly.
You're there with him, and then off you go to the University of Akron, and you get that thing rolling. You take him to the NCAA tournament. And now all of a sudden, Here comes a program in the University of Cincinnati that had not been to an NCAA tournament since 1977. A lot of tough times and dark days. They offer you the job. You take the job. What was your perception once you got the job of how bad things were at UC?
Well, I had no idea. I went in there. I think there were 5 guys that interviewed the same day at the Dayton airport, and I was the last guy in, and the first guy went in and he left. I'm sitting out in the car, and I go in, and the first thing that Rick Taylor asked me is, "What's the last book that you read?" And I said, "When Glory Mattered." And he asked me a couple questions about the book. I told him what I got out of the book, and then we started talking about the program and what was needed and so forth and so on. And he said, "Okay, we'll get back with you." I got up to leave. Now I'm the 5th guy out. So I'm walking out, and he said, "Oh, wait a minute, I have one more question for you." I said, "Yes, sir, what is that?" He said, "What's the last book you read?" I said, "When Glory Mattered." He said, "Okay, thank you." And I walked out. Well, later on, Bill Mulvihill, who was in the meeting, told me the reason I got the job was that I was the only one who didn't lie about the last book they read. The other guys gave one answer when Rick asked them at the beginning of the interview, and another book when they were on the way out. So I got the job for not lying, I guess.
How about that? I was announcing the UC games on television when you got the job here, and I think back to those first 2 teams. Programs, you've been hit with some probation, and there were some heavily recruited players that Tony Yates had brought in that you still had with the program. You had Lewis Banks, Andre Tate, Lavertus Robinson, and Keith Starks. You bring in a guy from the football team and Steve Sanders because you're looking for bodies. As you look back in your career, could you ask for 4 or 5 bigger gamers than what those guys gave for you those 2 years?
No, and Tommy, you hear so much about that group, and I didn't know if they would stay. I didn't know if they would succumb to what I was going to put them through. And I'm sitting in the office there, the old office, and Lavertus comes. He's standing in the door, and I said, "Come on in, man." And he said, "I can come in?" I said, "Yeah, come on in, sit down." Came in, sit down, and we talked for a while. And I said, "Why'd you ask if you could come in?" He said, "Coach, I've never been in here." And I said, "Well, you're welcome here anytime." And he says, "Coach, I'm here. I'm staying. I'm not going anywhere." And then shortly after, Lou Banks pops his head in the door. And then Andre Tate and Keith Starks. And, I owe a lot to those guys, for believing in me and believing in the University of Cincinnati.
You end up taking those teams to the NIT, and now comes 91-92. You bring in a slew of junior college players: Nick Van Exel, Herb Jones, Corey Blunt, Eric Martin, Terry Nelson. You get a transfer. The real leader of that group that came, you had him in Akron, in Anthony Buford. First of all, I want to ask you, do they still, junior college players, get a bad rap for whatever reason?
Absolutely. We've got my 2 bigs right now are junior college players, and they're wonderful. I mean, they're great academically. They are the nicest people you could ever be around, and they can play. They've been very good so far. So, yeah, I mean, I think to a large degree, Tommy, they're more prepared. and they've had it hard. Junior college isn't an easy thing, and I think they're more prepared. They're more excited about the opportunity, I guess is the best way to put it. And so, yeah, I love those guys.
And that team, you go to the Final Four. Did you see that coming for that group in that short amount of time, all coming together, and that first year together, Final Four, following year, Elite Eight? But did you see the Final Four thing or the possibility of it coming?
Tommy, I can tell you this. I have been blessed to coach a bunch of All-Americans. I mean, I've been blessed to coach a bunch of guys that were pros. The best guy that I've ever coached is Herb Jones, without a question. And I think to a man, every one of those guys on that team will tell you that Herb was the guy. And I think, when we were fortunate enough to be able to recruit Herb, and Steve Muller did a terrific job in recruiting them. And then we get Corey, Terry, and Eric, because they were all friends. They were all together. Let's just go together. So we get those three guys. So, you got, and Nick, nobody knew how good Nick was. We watched him, and actually it was Mo and I, and really, really liked him. But, people were saying, no, he can't, he won't do this. He was fantastic. And, so it wasn't coaching. We had really good players. And we had really good players.
Well, coaching had something to do with it. You can be humble about it, but there's no doubt about it. I mean, to bring a bunch of guys that have never played together before in any sport, and all of a sudden, this whole thing just like perfect fit. Maybe not every game was perfect fit, but you know what I'm getting at. And to make that kind of run, the Final Four and the Elite Eight is just extraordinary. The next 9 years, you win 23 or more every season. You go 7 straight years of winning 25 or more. Now we come to 99-2000. Number 1 ranking in the country for 12 weeks. You've got the National Player of the Year in Kenyon Martin. You're starting in the conference tournament. And in the very first game, 3 minutes in, Kenyon Martin breaks his leg. What did you say to Kenyon Martin after that game?
I'm sorry. Kenyon was an absolute joy to coach, joy to be around. He and I still talk quite a bit. Just talked to him. I think it was last week. We had a long conversation and talked about the old days and talked about the future and everything else. But what a great person, and it just I think as a coach, it's the hardest thing I've ever gone through. To see him go down, and then we go to the Final Four here at West Virginia. And my best player, who was a wonderful, wonderful human being, who's working for the New York Knicks now, tore his knee up. And you sit there and you say, why? Why those guys? They did everything right. Why? You could see it if it's some guy who was, cut corners, did everything humanly possible to make things worse. Those two guys were two guys that did everything right. And why them? Why? And Kenyon Steele was a guy just kind of rolled into him. It was a down screen. It was a cross screen down screen, and the guy just rolled into him. And Ken had his foot planted. So it's still, man. I don't really try to think about it much. I don't really talk about it much. When I'm with Kenyon, we talk about a lot of things, but we very rarely, if ever, talk about that.
What did you say to that team? I mean, look, these are smart young men, and they know they've just lost the best player in the country. and hopes of a national championship and all those kinds of things. And you still had a lot of other really good players. But, I mean, he was the man. How do you try to hold that thing? What did you do to try to hold that thing together?
He did more than I did. He was in the locker room, before every practice, hey, we got to go out here. We got to get better today. He gave a talk before every game about how, hey, listen, it's not over with, man. We got to go do this. Everybody's got to step up, step your game up. He was phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal.
Nancy Zimpher is public enemy number one around here for many who love UC basketball and love Bob Huggins. And I mean, this town still loves Bob Huggins. Is Nancy Zimpher, is she the reason that you were no longer at the University of Cincinnati, or is it far more than that?
It's more than that. There were a couple others involved.
Did you think you had any chance of survival here?
Not with Bob going as the athletic director.
You regret not being here? I mean, I don't want to ask you that because you have a great job and people who love you there at West Virginia. But was there a part of you that died when you left this job?
I love Cincinnati. I love Cincinnati. I love the people there. I mean, how do you beat every time you open the doors? You got 13-176. We used to scrimmage, and I did it. I talked to Rick Mentor and said, maybe we can scrimmage, and some people will come in, and we'll kind of try to usher them into the football stadium. And I don't think we played a game where there wasn't 13-176 there,
mm-hmm.
Thom. And on Saturday mornings, we would just scrimmage, and people would show up, and we'd have a couple thousand people there watching a scrimmage on Saturday morning. I mean, how do you not love the people of Cincinnati and how much they love UC basketball?
You leave UC, you're out for a year, you go to Kansas State for a year, and now here comes your alma mater, West Virginia. Your third season, just like at UC, you take West Virginia to the Final Four. You lose to Duke there. Is there anywhere can you compare losing a Final Four game the first time compared to losing a Final Four game the second time? Or are they both just, in their own way, just really, really tough?
Well, at UC, we lost the best player in the country who I don't think anybody in their right mind would think we weren't going to win it if Kenyon doesn't break his leg. We're playing Duke, and the best player in our league, Deshaun Butler, tears his knee up. And, I don't care what anybody says when your heart and soul, your best player, gets carried off the floor. I mean, you got guys in the huddle crying, man, and they're crying because they love him and what he's done for them, what he's done for the team, and it's just, I mean, emotionally, it's hard to combat that. I mean, it's just everybody is so down, and the truth of the matter is they're more concerned about what's going on in the locker room with those guys than playing a game.
Hard to believe this is your 16th year at West Virginia. Over your 15 years, 1 year they didn't play the tournament because of COVID. Take them to the NCAA tournament virtually every single year. How hard is it, Bob, to recruit in Morgantown, West Virginia?
Not that hard, really. It's a great place. I mean, it's a great university. There are great people here. I think once people get here and see. I mean, we've got guys now, you know, with the portal and everything. We've got guys from all over the place, and they love it here. I mean, they absolutely love it here. And I think what surprises most people is they stay here. They don't leave. You know, there are some obviously that leave for jobs and, you know, other things. And that's I think that's the other thing. I mean, our guys have come out of here and got terrific jobs. But it's a place where, you know, once you get here, it's hard to leave.
Yeah, it's a phenomenally beautiful place, and like you said, a great school. You were kind enough to allow me to come talk to your team a couple of years ago when I was going through a really tough time, and boy, what a great place. Players talk about you, Bob, like a father. And I was doing some research last night, and not many people like to talk about these kinds of statistics, but they are real and they are factual. In the African American community, and this is in the United States of America, 67% of African American children are born into a single parent household. Whites are at 24%. In the inner cities of the United States of America, African American children, 85%, are into single family households. In a lot of cases, Bob, you are a second parent to these kids. How challenging, as time has gone by and that number continues to increase, how challenging is that for you?
I don't think it's a whole lot different, Tom. I mean, you know, I guess I learned probably at Walsh, you know, that you kind of you got to give, you know, you got to give a little bit. You got to know that they care about that you care about them, and that, you know, it's not all basketball. You know, it's getting an education. It's being able to get a job, and you know, fortunately, you know, I've been in situations where I knew people where I could help them get good jobs when they were done. I've been in situations where, you know, we've been able to get the help that some guys needed, you know, academically. I mean, for all the BS that went on at UC, and there was a ton of it, our guys did pretty doggone well. And you look at where they are now, you know, they're not living in the hood. They've got good jobs. They've got great families. They're not anything what a lot of people portrayed them to be. And I think that was the sad thing. That was the sad thing there. And, you know, then you throw on top of that, you get an athletic director who is more concerned about himself and making money, and Dr. Steger said to me, "Are you sure, you know, that we need to bring this guy in?" I mean, after all, he did take guys off of the stadium project and had him put a roof on his house. And I'm like, well, I mean, I knew him a long, long time ago. He was assistant AD here when I played here, and that's the only time that I really knew him. But we just had some people that were. It wasn't about the University of Cincinnati, and it wasn't about our basketball team or our football team. It was about them. It was about them and them furthering themselves, making more money, being able to get more money. It was, you know, and Tommy, you know, it's not like I'm perfect. I'm not. But you know what? I've never gone in and asked for a raise anywhere I've ever been. I'm still working on the same contract that I signed here 16 years ago. Hasn't changed, not one single bit. It's what they offered me. And I mean, I'm good with that. Now, there are other people that, I mean, they can't get enough. And in the meantime, they hurt people. and that's wrong. I mean, that's dead wrong. And unfortunately, we had people at the University of Cincinnati who hurt people. You shouldn't have the right to do that.
Do kids, are you finding it harder? And I joke around about this on this show all the time. I mean, I coached my son and daughter's basketball teams from the time they were in kindergarten through the 6th grade. And, you know, I always felt like kids needed to be pushed and they needed to be challenged. And you could say certain things to certain kids. You knew who they were, and you knew who they weren't. Are you finding it harder to find kids that want to be coached and don't mind being coached hard?
No, and I think the reason being, they know who I am. They know who I am. They know what I stand for, and they've also seen the guys come here, and they all leave with something pretty good, be it a basketball career, be it in petroleum engineering, be it in whatever it is that they're going to spend the rest of their life doing, and they see that. I mean, they see that we care. They see that, you know, they see that the relationship that we have with guys. I mean, I've got guys that I've got maybe a couple of guys where people say, you're going to take him, he's not coachable. Of course he's coachable. You've just got the right buttons, and they got to know you care about them, man. I mean, if they know you care about them, they're all in. And I think I've been fortunate enough to get guys that do know that I care about them, and it's, you know, it's not the 3 years or 4 years or 1 year that they're here or they were at University of Cincinnati. It's a lifetime, man. It's a lifetime, and I think you know, you've seen that with my guys.
Yep.
You know, they know that I care about them, and they know I'll do whatever I need to do to help them.
Is that what you say to a parent or parents or to a kid? Because, I mean, look, you're going in and recruiting these guys that are getting recruited by everybody, or in some cases recruited by everybody. I think the most amazing thing maybe about your coaching record and tenure is the fact that compared to the guys that are on that top 10 all-time list, I mean, these guys are getting blue chip, 4, 5, 6, 7 of them in one recruiting class. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I think the only guy that you ever got to come to Cincinnati, and for that matter, West Virginia, that was a bona fide top guy was Danny Fortson. Is that accurate? I mean, am I right on that?
DJ.
Yeah.
Right. DJ was.
Yeah. But how are you able to? Because you're not you're not a salesman. You're not some guy that's a lot of flash, your buddy Cal, and you know, some of these guys that can come in there in their fancy suits and all this kind of stuff. How's Bob Huggins selling himself in West Virginia when you only have a short amount of time with a kid?
Go talk to the players. Go talk to the players. They're going to be honest with you. I tell parents that. Go ask them. I mean, I could say whatever, you know, and I mean, thank God my parents raised me to tell the truth, which obviously some guys don't. But I think it has way more of an impact when they hear it from the players. Ask them questions. Go ask them questions. If you are worried about this or that, go ask them. See what they tell you.
You're coming to Xavier this weekend. Boy, you had some battles through the years as a coach of the University of Cincinnati against Xavier. You excited about the trip back?
I don't know. I haven't really thought that much about it. You know, every time Xavier comes up, what I think about is Skip Prosser, and what a wonderful human being he was. And you know, Skip and I used to used to get together, and we kind of made a pact that when I was done at UC and he was done at Xavier, we would go meet at his watering hole one week and my watering hole the other week. And then we could sit there and talk and laugh and tell stories and just have a big time. And I was looking forward to that, and I know he was as well. And it's wow, I mean, that you talk about something hitting you hard. I was with him the night before. You know, we went and got a bite to eat. He and Dino and, you know, the whole group. I was sitting right there with him, and wow, what a blow that was.
Is the whole dislike of the UC Xavier rivalry, and I know you've been gone from it from a long time now, but was there ever a point in time, and look, I announced a lot of those games, and man, it was pretty nasty, especially there during the Pete Gillen regime there at X. I thought that's when it was at its most nasty. Not saying that he's to blame for that, but that just seemed at the point in time. Was there ever a point in time where you thought that rivalry was starting to border on being too much?
Never really thought about it. The only time I ever thought about it was when we were getting ready to play. I didn't pay much attention to it. I had too many other things going on. I had too many other. I'm trying to get our team back to the Final Four. That was my concern. Trying to get our guys better. You know, trying to make sure our guys are doing everything that they need to do to be successful. I don't get caught up in a lot of that. You know, I mean, I honestly don't. I never have. You know, I've got a lot of very dear friends in coaching, you know, but it's not like I call Bill Self or Bill Self calls me, you know, every day. I mean, we talk, you know, we talk when we need to talk. Same thing with all the guys in our league, you know. I mean, I'm friends with all those guys, and we don't belabor it, you know. I mean, it's just if there's something we need to talk about, we do.
Third winningest coach of all time. Do you ever find yourself thinking about that?
Every time that people say that, I think, damn, I'm old, you know.
But you're really not. I mean, I was looking back up through some of the. I mean, by the grace of God, you're healthy and you want to keep doing it. And I know you're not thinking this, but when you just start adding up the number of wins per year you have averaged, and a lot of people like us who have nothing to do with our time, like you're busy, but the rest of us, it's not inconceivable that one day you're not the all-time winningest coach in the history of basketball. There has to be, Bob, sometime. Sometime in the summer, maybe you're having a cigar, you're having a beer, whatever it is, and you're sitting on the back porch. There has to be some time where you've said, wow.
I look at, which I don't look at very often, but when they come up on TV, what Mike Krzyzewski's done, I'm happy for Mike. I mean, that I don't think that will ever be broken. The games that Mike's won, and I know Jim Boeheim's going to make a run, but you know, those two guys are two guys that I looked up to, you know, in the coaching profession as a younger coach. I played against Coach Boeheim's teams when I played here at West Virginia. We played them a couple times a year. So I mean, I'm happy for those guys. I mean, I'm happy for anybody who has success in this business.
Long time coming. Long time coming. Your induction this year to the Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame. Your speech was amazing. Where were you when you got the call? Was it a call that you had expected to get before now?
Well, everybody kept talking about it. So it's, it was hard not to think at least a little bit about. I was sitting right here at my desk. I was sitting right here at my desk, and they called and said that I was going to be inducted.
And when you got there, was it a bigger deal than even you perhaps had pictured it to be in your own mind, or thought what it might be in your mind?
You know what was really neat, Tommy, is the fact that they they called me. Actually, I was in Florida. I was in Florida taking a break, and I got a call, and they said that you had to have a presenter. You needed a presenter or two. So I hang up, called Jerry West right away, and Jerry said I'd love to do it. And Jerry and I talked for a while, and it was, I mean, what a great guy he is, and he's been unbelievable to me, much like what Oscar was for me at Cincinnati. I mean, I could talk to Oscar and bang some things off Oscar, and Oscar was, like Jerry, they're very much to the point. They tell you really what they thought, and you could take that and run with it. And then I got done talking to him, and I thought, well, I should call Rod Thorne. So I called Rod. I mean, both of those guys are Hall of Famers. So I called Rod and asked him if he would be a presenter, and he said absolutely. And that was it.
Last question. Your team is off to a 6-1 start this year. Your only loss against a really good Purdue team. How do you like your team? Is it a different kind of team maybe than you had in years past?
Is it a different kind? Yeah, we make shots once in a while. That's rather refreshing. Yeah, you know what? For everything about the portal, and obviously we dabbled in the portal like most teams did. Our guys really get along. They really get along. They really like each other. We don't have like loners. That kind of you see our guys. They're always together. I mean, it's been to this point, anyways. I mean, it's been a lot of fun, actually. It's not that they're perfect or I'm perfect, but it's been fun. I mean, we don't guard the way we need to guard. We don't rebound the way we need to rebound. I mean, those are two things that we've got to get a lot better at if we're gonna make a run here in March. But they'll work at it. They'll try. They and they're very, very coachable. So I'm happy. Larry Harrison's been with me for seems like 100 years, and having Larry there, on the bench, and Larry knows me, and I know Larry, and we bang things off of each other, and Larry's a heck of a basketball coach. So I can't ask for a whole lot more. The people here have been fantastic. The people in the state of West Virginia have been absolutely fantastic. We're drawing more people than anybody ever believed could be done here, because people have to travel so far. I mean, we got people traveling 3-4 hours to come and watch a basketball game, turn around, drive home. And it's not like driving down 77. You know what I mean?
No, it's not. No.
It's a little rougher than that. And they still come. They still come. They still support. I think a year ago, whatever it was, 3 or 4 games, we were sold out. I mean, there wasn't a seat in the house not taken. And that's never happened here. I mean, it's never, ever happened here. It probably happened when they were playing in Stansbury Hall, when Jerry was there, and Rod were there, when Thorne and Hunley were there, but never in the Coliseum here. And I mean, I'm thankful, and I mean, what's not to be happy about?
Well, Coach, I can't thank you enough for everything that you meant to me in my career and in my life, and I say that, you know, that from the very bottom of my heart. Wherever I've gone along the road from Cincinnati to Chicago to Arizona, back to Cincinnati, and all points in between, whenever your name always comes up, I'm your number one fan and number one booster, and I'm rooting for you to win every single game, and that includes this Saturday. So if that ticks off some Xavier fans, and hell with it, I'm not worried about it. But
they'd find something else out about if you didn't say it. They'd find something else. Believe me.
You're lying about that, Bob. Thank you so much.
I just gonna say, some people like to be unhappy. So God bless them.
God bless them is right. Bob, God bless you, and thank you for your time today. I really appreciate it.
Tommy, always a pleasure, man. Enjoy it.
We'll see you this weekend.
Sounds great. Looking forward to it.
Bob Huggins, kind enough to join us today for an extended period of time. The big interview, the guy, I'm telling you, the guy's the best. He's the best. When I got fired from all my jobs 2.5 years ago, he invited me to come speak to his team and to share with them some of the things you can say and some of the things you can do that can really screw up the rest of your life, whether you're an 18-year-old kid playing college basketball in Morgantown, West Virginia, or at the time a 56-year-old professional in Cincinnati, Ohio, and had such an McBride and that whole group that he had down there. It was unbelievable, and I'm forever indebted to that guy, Bob Huggins.